once we started with you, I think we had 3 or 4 contracts within the first month, and I was like, okay, this is real deal. I think one of the best deals I think I had with you guys up to this date was being able to acquire our first rental 3K out of pocket, right? Which is unheard of.
So I guess we're about to approach your month 3 with us. How much money have you made from Facebook and how much have you invested?
So I think that we've closed about 4 to 5. I'm looking here at a roughly about 78,000, and that was off of just a little bit under like 7 grand spent.
What's going on, guys? I got my guy Jordan here with us. He's gonna share a little bit about his story and how he is crushing in the Atlanta market. Jordan, do you mind giving us a quick intro?
Yeah, what's going on? So based out in Atlanta, Georgia, like Fidel just said, been in real estate back in 2021. Kind of went the route of learning from somebody that was doing it at a high level here in the Atlanta market. Was with him for about 3.5 years, and then decided to take that leap of faith and go off and do it on my own. So I've been doing that for literally the past year, coming up in 2 days, and yeah, it's been going really well. Mainly, just wholesaling, couple flips on the side. Really enjoying it. Trying to scale up the team and get better and get more deals as we go. So that's kind of my route that I took in real estate, and not turning back anytime soon.
Great, that's good to hear. I think starting in coaching is one of the best investments that you can make because you can just fast track your way to success, right? If
100%.
yeah, if the blueprint is already set, you just need to show up and do the work. But can you tell the people some of the stuff that you're having success with before we started working together, and then what kind of made you want to look into just getting your own inbound leads? Because I know that you were crushing it before, but if you can just tell the people a little bit on what you were doing before and what you're doing now.
Yeah. So before kind of getting into the inbound game and going that route was mainly just focusing on pre-foreclosures. With the uptick of the economy and everything that's going on, obviously seeing an increase with those foreclosures, and knew it was a good niche to dive into, and started doing pre-foreclosures last year around August. Kind of hit the ground running. I think I had like 3 deals within the first month, and this was when I was still working with that partner there, and just saw the route in which to go to be able to do it on my own. So I saw, it was getting a lot of traction. So that was kind of what made me want to go full time and, pursue these pre foreclosures and help a lot of these people out. It's a very rewarding side of real estate, rather than just being very transactional. These people are going through a hard time, on the brink of losing their home, and, like to be able to go in there and provide value, whether we, buy their property or not, being able to just give them information about how they can, maneuver the foreclosure process. So doing that, I realized, obviously it's a lot of outbound, a lot of cold calls, trying to get a hold of relatives or the homeowner, and thought to, hey, met you in Denver at the Love Wealth event and knew that you were crushing it with your own inbound with Facebook, and got to know you a little bit more, and that was kind of the ticking in my head of like, hey, maybe we should start adding some inbounds to, not have to do so much, outbound and prospecting and things of that nature. And it's, changed my business and added another, 2 to 3 deals a month just by doing it. So highly recommend, going that route if you're looking for an inbound channel.
Yeah, that's huge because I tell a lot of the people, a lot of new people that are getting into business, like watch the channel. And like for me, I say if you have the funds or access to funds, I think it's just best to invest it in coaching, invest it into inbound. That way you can talk to leads who want to sell, and it's just way less chasing and more, higher quality conversations. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I recommend new people to do the stuff that you are still doing with the foreclosures because that's where the highest motivation is, right?
Yeah.
And you go where the motivation already is set. You just need to be very good at your process, right? But what I think holds a lot of people back is like they don't have like systems or a sales process or what to say, or they just focus so much on being the investor and giving them an offer. Where the approach on that side, it's way different because you need to be more so like a consultant, like a friend instead of just, trying to buy the property for cash. So how do you think people can get success if they are using the foreclosures? And then I guess we'll dive more into like what we're doing together with the inbound side. But I think this would be a good example for people to listen.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I've spoke with a lot of people that try to, dabble into the foreclosure niche. And, a lot of them, kind of run into the similar issues of, hey, not being able to get deals or, it's very saturated. This is something I hear a lot. But I think a lot of times the approach that you're reaching out to these people, yeah, the best thing about foreclosures is just like you said, right? We know they have motivation. We know there's something going on. Now it's, hey, how do we get a hold of them? How do we have a sales process in place to be able to break through the barrier of, hey, I'm somebody that's just trying to help you, and I'm not necessarily here to buy your property right off the bat. So the way, we're able to go into it is, one, having empathy, and letting them know, hey, this is what we can do, regardless if you decide to work with us or not. We want to be here as a resource to you to know what your options are when you're navigating this process. And a lot of times at the end, once we do get a contractor or someone that decides to work with us, we always are trained to ask them, hey, what made you decide to go with us rather than somebody else? And a lot of times it's, hey, I felt comfortable working with you. You approached me in a way that, I can open up to you rather than, hey, I see you're in foreclosure, sell your house to me, right? Which a lot of times is a lot of approaches from other investors in this market is, hey, we're just going to try to take advantage of this person and just because we know they're in foreclosure rather than, actually hearing them out and seeing what their ideal outcome is. So I would just highly recommend, actually listening to the client and, what their best outcome is and not pushing them in one direction or another and just having that naturally just kind of fall in your lap because, they're limited options that they have when they're dealing with it where sometimes they just have to check the box off and next thing you know, their only option is to sell. So sell or get foreclosed on. So that's how we're able to get a lot of those deals is just, having empathy and showing them that we actually care. And yeah, that would be kind of my advice.
Type of lead, right? Whoever cares the most for the person, the better the chance that you have at making a deal happen, right? So if you ask the right questions and if you put their needs before yours, you're still gonna make money, but I know that you're gonna get way more deals. Now, kind of fast tracking now into when we started working together. Can you talk about like your first few weeks that you were with us? Because you, like with you, I know that we launched you and then we started getting crazy results. Can you tell the people a little bit of how that process went about and then some of the results that you got from that?
Yeah, so kind of the backtrack, even what made me consider you was just one, obviously we had met and connected, and really I was going out to that event to understand how to run inbound. It was always just outbound, outbound, outbound. So finding the people that knew how to run inbound and eventually learning how to do it yourself, which is, very powerful. But to your point there, I mean, once we started with you, I think we had 3 or 4 contracts within the first month, and I was like, okay, this is real deal. Motivation's just coming into your CRM already qualified, ready to go. Now it's just negotiating and figuring out a meeting point that we could buy their property at where they're comfortable moving forward as well. So yeah, and I think one of the best deals I think I had with you guys up to this date was being able to acquire our first rental $3K out of pocket, right, which is unheard of. We got it subject to, and when it came in, the lady was just like, I want you to just take over my loan and give me $3,000, and it was just already on the silver platter there where we locked it up probably within 10 minutes, and now we have it it's cash flowing about $700 a month, and off of something that just somebody reached out on Facebook, and we gave them a call, and next thing you know we're got a rental under our belt there. So I think that's the coolest story so far up to date with these Facebook leads for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. And what's even crazier that I think your first month we only spent like $2,500 and you got 4 contracts.
Yeah.
So like sometimes like we're able to just do that. I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be that easy with every client, but if we have already been in a market before, it's way easier to know what kind of messaging is going to work. And then when I tell people when they are running like ads, especially like on Facebook. The first few weeks is going to be about testing and then finding what angle is going to be the one that works best in that specific market. But the good thing with Facebook is it can get better as time goes by because we make changes based on data, not just on feelings. And the more that we know about what sort of ads and messaging is working there, we just need to do more of those because we already know that it's going to give us results. So by doing this and investing the time in actually figuring these things out, you're going to get cheaper leads that are high quality, but then also your cost per contracts and your cost per deals are going to drastically, go down. And the more that you care about this, the better that you're going to do, right? Because in
Yeah.
the end, it's all about sales and marketing. So if we can get very good at sales, I mean, why wouldn't we get good at marketing? And that's kind of like the main reason why we like launch this and try to help other wholesalers and investors because it's the most important lever that you can pull from that will make your business just make way more money.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think the best thing about it, one, you're empowering people to learn how to, go out there and do it themselves. It's not just, hey, us pay you and go off about it on your own and hope to get results. Is, hey, we're actually learning the ins and outs of how to do it, how to channel the results that you're wanting to be able to go out there and get the results that you're wanting on the back end. So I think that's something where we have to get better at is, with us specifically in pre-foreclosures is getting the, making the right ads to attract those type of sellers to come in where, hey, this campaign is specifically pre-foreclosures and you should see the results, from that based off the marketing that you're wanting to run. So it's very limitless in that regard that you can control kind of the outputs that you're wanting.
Yeah. Is there anything that stood out when we first like started working together and that we launched you?
I mean, just how quick it went into effect, right? I think we, launched on a Tuesday and then by, Thursday, 2 days later, we had 2 to 3 leads that came in. And I think within our first 5 to 6 leads, we had a contract. So, that's the biggest thing, right? In order to make money in the business, right, you got to spend money. And that was, one thing that kind of took me a minute to realize that. But once, we started, pouring in money to this, you start to see the results where it's like, hey, I should have been doing this a long time ago. But, you gotta grow through the weeds and learn and figure it out as you go. So I think that was the biggest thing that, we realized through this process and just how hands-on your team was. If we ever had questions or anything about, hey, what to do here or how do we make this a little bit better, they're right there, guiding us there throughout the whole process.
Yeah. Did you have any fears before we started kind of working together or any concerns?
I mean, I think the biggest thing on my end was just like, all right, I'm spending money now, and I hope to get the results that I'm seeking it. But I've done, my research. I remember reaching out to KT, who was already in your program, and a lot of guys, based off just the testimonials that you had posted on your Instagram, in your social media, where, the writing was already on the wall based off what the other results were getting, where I had faith. I didn't really have any fears other than, okay, rather, than us doing outbounding, spending minimal dollars on it, now we're pouring a little bit of money into it and hoping that we're able to get results pretty soon. And then, like I said, within the first couple of weeks, we got a couple contracts. So I
Yeah.
think that would be,
And I think a lot is due to you because in the end, like we can help you get the leads, but we can help you close with our process, but in the end, the work is up to you.
yeah,
So sometimes when I talk to people and they ask me like, "Hey, do you have a guarantee?" And I'm like, I mean, yes, we do have. I mean, we do have a guarantee. Like, if you don't get at least 3 contracts in 90 days, like we'll keep on working with you for free until you do. And then I just tell them like, hey, I can show you all the testimonials and the proof and the results, but ultimately, whose responsibility is it that you actually make this work?
yeah,
And then like me, it's like, okay. And then we're like, okay, based on everything that I showed you, do you believe that this would help you? And do you believe in yourself that you're gonna put in the work and actually show up and make sure that this, happens? And they're like, yeah. But I just feel like a lot of the times people are afraid of making the decision and they are afraid of the worst case, like the worst case scenario.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? You come in, take your money and I go gamble in Vegas. uh, but I don't know, like in all seriousness, it's okay. Best case scenario, you come in, you pay we make you money and you know how to do this and you keep on just making money, right? And then
Hmm.
you can make it back within the first 4 weeks. Worst case scenario, it gets you closer to your goal, you know?
Right.
And worst case scenario, you just learn something new. But it's kind of all up to you because you're going to get what you put in, which is why I try to focus on people who are already doing deals because I know if we plug the right systems and we invest the money in marketing, they're going to close deals. Because for somebody that's new, like they got to go to that little pain with that we all go through so that we get context and where it makes us, want it a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
And like sometimes when you make an investment, like it's always scary, like, yeah, like I don't want to spend the money, but every time I've spent the money, whether it's like on coaching that I pay for myself or anything, it has always given me an ROI because I go into anything where I'm like, okay, what do I need to do in order to get the results and how can I be the best student to make sure that this happens? And I'm like, okay, do I believe that if I do X, Y, and Z from what this person told me that I'm gonna get the same success? Yes, 100%. So like in the end, it's all about our effort and the time that we put in.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think the biggest thing, obviously, being an entrepreneur, you're taking a risk, right? And you have to spend that money to see the return that you're wanting to get or the results that you're wanting to get. And I think with that being said, right, I think the biggest thing I would say to anybody that's looking to start inbound is like having that process in place where if you can have the leads coming in, but if you don't have a sales process or systems to be able to adapt to the inflow of those leads coming in, yeah, then at that point it could be very much pointless. But having the right systems in place, making sure that you're staying on top of them, you have a follow up campaign or whatever the case is, right? Just making sure that you know how to handle these leads once they come in and how to approach them would be the biggest thing I would recommend anybody that's looking at doing it, but maybe at an earlier stage in their business where you just want to make sure you have kind of everything squared away before just trying to get things going and hoping and praying that it all works out.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess we're about to approach your month 3 with us. How much money have you made from Facebook and how much have you invested, like on a monthly
Um,
basis?
yeah, so I think we've closed 3 to 4 deals, or actually no, we've closed about 4 to 5. I'm looking here at a roughly about 78,000, and that was off of just a little bit under like 7 grand spent. So, I'm with spending 7 to make 75, I'll take that all day.
10x.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's better than any other channel that I'm doing right now. I mean, really, we're doing the outbound with kind of a cold call, which is doing really well for us as well. But really just finding those two have been really well, and just kind of continue to learn and get better with those processes of how we can take that from 10x to 12, 13x, if not more. Off.
Yeah. What do you think has been the hardest thing when it comes to the Facebook stuff?
Um, I think for me personally is one just getting in and really applying myself right to learning the back ends of it. Yeah, it's great to have leads and you guys, get it all set up on the front end, but it's really spending the time to know that, I'm gonna have to learn this and apply it. And one, just getting out there to make content as well. I think, it's great to have the picture ads and all that good stuff, but you want to be able to tailor to the customer that you're wanting to, bring in and just spending the time, making that content or, being creative with what you're trying to get accomplished at the end of the day. I think that's one thing that we have to do better at. But with the results that we're getting right now, I mean, we're pleased. It's just how can we take that to the next level would be kind of next steps for us in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I agree. Because like with you, like I said, I think we got like lucky that everything worked from the beginning. But the next level is okay, how do I start recording like my own content, which we kind of go over how to do that. And I think like once you know that and you do that, you're gonna kind of be able to be at a bird's eye view of how everything just works way more smoothly. But then also you're gonna be getting more like highly qualified people because Like your average cost per lead is what, like $30 or something like that?
Just checked. So it was, I mean, at one point we were at like 20 something. I think right now we're at about $41 last time I checked. So, um, it obviously fluctuates, but I haven't seen it more than 50, 60 at max, and lowest being
And
120.
what is your lead to contract ratio right now?
Lead to contract, we're looking at one out of every 8 or 9 or so, I would say. So, I mean, you do the math on that. That's really favorable numbers when you're looking at the grand scheme of things there.
Yeah, yeah, it's still really good. And I think once you start kind of taking the content and doing more of those ads, you start to understand really what's the best angle that you can have. And the more that you do ads like those, we can just keep on dropping that cost per lead. But just because it's a cheap lead, it doesn't mean that it's a bad lead.
Right.
We just become like way more efficient at doing the stuff that we're already good at.
Yeah, and to that, like I think it goes back to running the content and being more specific in who we're trying to attract, because the people that maybe have a house listed on the market that can't sell, they're not going to reach out in regards to a foreclosure ad that we're really trying to promote, because they're not in that situation, right? So we can weed out of some of those leads that might come in that might not be as hot, and a lot of them are very much motivated. But when you have an agent involved and things of that nature, like how can we cut that out and get directly to the client that we're looking for, rather than just kind of a big pool of, hey, buy your house for cash, right? Anybody is willing to fill out that, rather than having just, hey, is your house in foreclosure, behind on payments? Like someone that's on the market is not most likely going to fill out that ad. So how can we get straight to the point and getting to those people that we need to?
Yeah, and I think having a mix between like those broad ads are gonna get you like cheap leads, but then also sprinkling in pain-based ads where we talk about foreclosure, divorce, inheritance, repairs,
Yeah.
downsizing, stuff like that are gonna give us our ideal seller. But what would you tell to someone who thinks that Facebook ads won't work for them?
Um, I would say, man, for you to understand if it works or not, you have to apply yourself and try it out, right? I would always give a 90-day window for any new marketing source that you're looking at going with. Give it a 90-day period, run your KPIs and track with the performance of it. And from there, you'll have all the data that you need to know to say, hey, do I continue to put more money into it? Or is this something that doesn't work? And if it's not working right, don't just look at the leads, but look at your process behind it as well, right? It's not always about the leads. It's about, how we're managing them and what process we have to make sure we're capitalizing on them. So that would be kind of the biggest thing is, give yourself some time. Give risk it, go in there and spend the money, and then, give it that 90-day period and see if it's, worth continuing to go or not. But based off of our personal testimony, I mean, it's been one of the best investments we made in our business, with these inbound channels.
Yeah. And what I tell people is the sellers are always on social media. We are on social media. It's like, okay, we just need to find a way of getting them to reach out to us. And the way that we do that is, by putting good ads that call out specific pain points and motivation. That way they talk to us, right? So if someone has used kind of like an agency, and they didn't like the results, they were either putting the same ads as like everybody else, and they were not differentiating themselves like from the rest of the competition, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of the founder being in the ad, whether it's you or a team member, anyone who resembles your company's values. If they can be on the video, that's going to create like way more trust, and it's a way that you are different from the rest of the wholesalers, right?
Yeah.
But then also to add on top of that, how we're saying in the beginning is you need to be more so like a consultant when it comes to talking to these people. The motivation, the expectations, their next steps. Because I mean, nowadays it's harder to get deals. The market worse, so we can't get away by not doing our job. And
Yeah.
what's required for us to do, we got to do more. And the people who adapt are going to crush it, and the ones who don't, they won't.
Yeah. And with Facebook, right, there's such a large demographic. I mean, pretty much everybody in this world has a Facebook, right? So I think that's one thing where a lot of the people that we are dealing with are a little bit older that are looking for, maybe to downsize or just move on from their property where, maybe other social media platforms don't, Instagram. I don't know a lot of, 60 plus year olds that are on Instagram like that. Whereas to Facebook, everybody and their mom is on Facebook. So I think this is why it delivers such great results because it captures such a large audience. And being able to do that is the reason why Facebook, in my opinion, is the best platform to run ads.
Yeah.
For your leads.
Yeah, 100%. And what sort of mindset do you think you need to have in order for you to have success at anything? Whether you invest in coaching, you try something new, how's the mindset important?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Kobe fan. I like the mama mentality, right? You gotta always put your 100% in everything that you do, right? And trial and error. Sometimes things are going to go your way, sometimes they're not. But not to just give up off of the first time you failed on something or you don't get the results that you want. Is hey, how can I maybe improve this thing to get the results that I want on this side? So I mean, just having that relentless mentality of hey, I went all in on this. How can I make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to make it make sense for me and my business. So, just being relentless in everything that you do is kind of the mentality you got to have and just not being willing to give up, when things maybe don't go your way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the mindset is everything because if you truly believe that you can do it, I mean, you're going to go out there and just try your hardest until you achieve it. And I've never seen anyone who had that mindset that didn't do well.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important before anything. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. Now, when it comes to like our team and the support, can you kind of tell us like how hands-on and off it is? Like, were you thinking that you had to do like a ton of stuff before coming in? And what is your experience been with the rest of the team?
Yeah, going back to what I said a little bit earlier, I mean, that was one of the things that I was kind of blown away with of like how one hands off it was at the beginning where they got the ads up and running for you and you could just sit back and receive the leads. But and even now, like if there's ever any question I have, I know I can reach out to Paulo or Chris or whoever it is to help us get to that, one, get clarity about what we need to do to get the results that we're looking for. So man, it's been night and day difference. A lot of times you're in these masterminds or groups and it takes a while to get the answer that you're looking for. Haven't had an issue here with you guys and what you guys are doing. Always been very responsive, providing me with feedback of, hey, you need to start making content. This is, the results that we're seeing, maybe adding AI, like just giving us pointers and feedback of, hey, how we can take this to the next level rather than just like, hey, now you're off your own and this is that, right? So I think it's been really good to have that support and know that we can trust on people that done it at a high level and be able to pick their brain and see how we can make the tweaks in our business to get the changes that we're looking for.
Yeah, totally agree. Because, for anyone watching that doesn't know kind of how our process is, as soon as you come in, we're going to launch your ads in your own ad account with the ads that we have that we already know crush that have made us $100,000 this year. So we plug those onto you, and then we kind of go over how you can just replicate some of the ads that I have, where you're calling out those pain points, right? And then we're gonna give you pointers on how to actually make content that makes people want to submit their information. But in the beginning, we're going to launch our stuff to get you leads. It's important for us. And then like once we start doing that and getting the content, we coach you on what we're doing and why, so that you get the context. And then the whole goal is after month 2 or 3, you can start taking action items because you already received enough coaching and context that you can start applying the information on your own, and then just have us next to you where we're just overseeing what you're doing to make sure that you actually get the skill transfer, right? Because the whole goal for us is for you to learn this and to not be dependent on an agency or somebody else. So that's kind of like my whole goal of how I came about to having the program for these other investors, because what it did for my business, it kind of was life changing. Learning this, did like make us do very well. we're able to cut our marketing costs by less than half from last year, and we're still going to make around the same amount of revenue, which means that we're going to net way more money and we're saving a lot of money because in the end, it's all about like how much money you net.
Yeah.
Uh, Super important for us too.
Yeah. No, and on top of that, right, the weekly calls, right, I think is very valuable. You know, whether you have somebody yourself or you have someone that's running the marketing for you within your personal team, you know, being able to stick them in there and just be able to soak up the information you guys are have, and just having that open dialogue, right? A lot of times, you know, people are bringing, you know, maybe some things that they're wanting to get more clarity on, and just having that direct feedback right then and there, you know, and being able to listen to other people that are in the group that are running Facebook ads, seeing what they're doing well, and just being able to soak up that information to see, okay, he's crushing at this, going nationwide. Maybe that's something I do down the line, right? And just being able to pick brains from other investors in the group has been game changing.
Yeah, 100%. What would you say to someone who's already doing, 2 to 4 deals a month, and then they want to start taking control over the inbound? Is there any advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think as entrepreneurs, right, you always want to have control of what you're doing, right? So, you know, like you touched on, yeah, you can go to an agency to run your stuff and not really know how to do it. But what if one day you don't get the results and they can't really communicate why that is an issue for you, and there's just not really much transparency. You're dumping money and not seeing the results. But here, when you're being able and being taught the ins and outs of it, right, that control goes back into your hands of, okay, how can I make this better based off of what I've been taught. So I think, you know, being able to have control over the leads that you're bringing in, having control over the money that you're spending, like is very powerful at the end of the day, knowing that it all kind of relies on you, with still having that support from your team and your staff there to, be able to overcome some of those challenges you may run into when you're trying to go off and do it on your own. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. So what's your goal for the next 12 months?
Um, Next 12 months, I think for me is to one, how can I continue to, lower that cost per lead, get more niche with my marketing on top of what I'm already doing. Right. How can I bring in more revenue with spending less cost per contract, right? So how can I get that to a number that makes sense for me to be able to dump more money into it, knowing that the results are going to come. So I think obviously we want to up our revenue, but I think with where we're at right now is, hey, how can we get more defined in our processes and systems, where we can go from, I think right now we're doing about 3 to 4 deals a month. How can we get that to 7 to 9, 7 to 10 deals, and scaling up the business as well. Getting people in here that want to grow with us. See eye to eye with our vision and grow. And I don't want no huge team or anything like that, but people that being lean and still very profitable
Yep.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. I think for you, it's kind of time for us to spend a little bit more money. But what I tell people is like, you don't need to have a huge team to make money. And one of my worst mistakes when I started this was like I was chasing after revenue, where in the end, what you need to optimize for is how much am I going to net
Yeah.
each month after my expenses, my team, risk reward ratio, kind of quality of life. And I think inbound checks off a lot of those boxes, because it's not until you kind of go through those lessons. Like for me, I lost a lot of money flipping houses, spending money in other marketing channels, and I just sat down, on my like by myself, and I'm like, okay, if the goal is to get leads and get contracts and sell them as fast as we can, why would I risk more money to flip with a maybe if I have lost so much money flipping? Because things may not go well. Like you may do everything right, but that doesn't mean that a house is going to sell, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to have a huge operation. I just want to know that I have a lean and mean team that they can get us deals, right? And for us, we're spending anywhere like 8,000 a month, where last year we were spending like 25,000 a month
Right.
in the marketing, and we're gonna do around the same amount of revenue. So like even for me, like we need to ramp that up more, because I know that I have the team to do that, and I don't need to hire like new or more people to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is kind of super important. Anything, I mean, would you recommend the program to somebody else?
Yeah, 100%, man. I think if you're looking, one, to invest in yourself and learning a new trade of how to run Facebook ads, like this is definitely the way to go, right? Rather than just handing it off to somebody else to come in there and run those ads for you. I think it's, very valuable to be able to learn the back ends of everything with Facebook and how to optimize, what you're looking for. So yeah, I would 100% recommend this to anybody that's wanting to one get into inbound. I was in that same boat just 3 to 4 months ago, right? Looking for an inbound channel, came across Fidel, and the results speak for itself. And happy that I've joined this group and got to know you over this time.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for trusting us and for putting in the work and for jumping on the call. I know this kind of worked very well with the people. That way they kind of see what we are doing, but then also just for them to experience like, hey, like it's not too complicated. We just need to do the work and do the right things, and you're gonna start kind of getting the money. But with that being said, thank you for trusting us. Thank you for jumping on the call. I enjoyed talking to you, and thanks for telling us a little bit about your story and the cool stuff that you are doing. Um, one last thing, is there anything that you think we could do better to help you more?
I think it's more so on my end of what I need to do better. I think you guys have been great. I really don't have any negatives to say. I think it's more so on my end, being more accountable of learning more of that process and how we can get better with our ads. I would point the finger back at myself rather than anything that you guys are doing wrong. Just being 100% transparent right there. But yeah, I just need to apply myself a little bit more of learning the ins and outs and, how can I gear, I want to be able to find the clients that I'm looking for on Facebook, and how can I run those ads to get to those people would be kind of my answer for you there.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna hold you accountable, and
For sure, got to.
we're here to help you.
Yes, sir.
But Jordan, thank you so much for your time, man. Hope we have you in the channel in a couple months once you're making even more money. But with that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thank you for watching.